using them univocally.
Well,
You're
I
just
mean, as
using
far as your analogy
two
with the
same
Rolex
two
and
same.
the Rolls Royce, I would say is that
No,
you're not using it
no,
univocally either.
Hold on, look, I can give
no.
you.
I am saying to you, I'm using it univocally. You cannot tell me what I'm saying, like what I'm intending to say to you. That's like
Because
weird.
when I inquire
But
further, it would not be univocal.
So look, when I look up the word univocal, it says one possible meaning, unambiguous. Are you just simply
exactly.
saying, all right, great? So when God minds reflects or God mind calculates, He's doing it in the same way that we calculate, in the same way we reflect. Now, is that the full
I'm,
extent of God's mind? Obviously not. Is it to the same
no.
degree as God's mind? Obviously not. But I think that those two functions are identical: calculating, reflecting, and whatever
Yeah.
other things that God mind does.
Yeah. So, yeah. So you want to say that let's suppose God possesses mental states. Humans possess mental states. When you are saying mental states, what you mean, you mean in a univocal way, right? I'm not giving you a different definition to God's mental states, and I'm not giving you a different definition to human mental states. Right? Both of them are mental states, and both of them have the same meaning. Right? In this case, I will agree with you, Concrete. There is an analogy, and the analogy works. I'm saying that this is not what John is committed to.
He doesn't show me why it's right. You know, that's what I often find.
Happened before? Has it happened before?
Well, whether it happens before or not, it should be the same.
Well, no, I think the first thing we need to establish is whether or not it's happened before. Now, again, I'm not aware of it. Okay, so it's never happened.
Yeah, but undercutting Peter is not. It's not like the argument is false, but there is no demonstration, so I don't really have any kind of a reason to hold to the premise.
Now, isn't that sufficient, though?
Yeah, and no, it's sufficient for undercutting the feeders, and you could say that. And this is why I'm saying that it's probably very useful for you to have this type of a terminology in your arsenal.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think it's useful. You know, because I'm just simply asking them to justify the premise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm not entirely sure what premise. I don't really remember. I don't remember what specific thing you rejected or not rejected. I don't really remember what was where was the contention there.
Yeah,
I do remember that you said.
But more importantly, what I often get is when I ask them to justify the premise, they tell me, "Show me why it's wrong," and I don't think that's fair for them to ask that.
Yeah, so just say, "Look, I don't see any reasons for me to accept X premise. Therefore, I'll be just agnostic in regards to this argument. And in virtue of that, this argument doesn't hold any kind of power over what I believe in."
Right, and listen, I acknowledge that the syllogism is valid, right? But that doesn't make it sound. You know what I mean, right? And so I'm asking them to justify the premise and
forget about the soundness of the stuff, right? The only thing that you need to talk about is in regards to what you hold in your background, if you hold to that being true, being false, stuff like that. I think you have a different problem than whether the argument is sound or valid. I think the problem is that you are unfamiliar with those basic terms most of the times, and I'm not trying to insult you, right? It's just very evident from your conversations with those people. And I think you need to understand first of all the terminology and maybe precisify your language, because it seems to me that you don't really have any kind of an analysis or elaborations on the terms that you are using, which is also very problematic.
Yeah, no, I understand it's problematic. A lot of times I will talk with philosophers because the language is so precise, and I speak colloquially, and I often actually use I use philosophical terms wrongly. And so, for example, when I told him that he's not justifying the premise, for example, that he's just assuming that it's true, I told him that he was begging the question, and that threw a loop in it because he got fixated on that phrase that didn't apply to what I was saying. So he wasn't interested in listening to what I was saying. He was more interested in trying to show how I'm using the term wrong, right? Mm-hmm. And so what I meant was it wasn't even important to him, which actually should be, I would think. What's more important? He could have easily said, "Oh, you're not talking about begging the question. You're talking about raising the question." And so, he could have easily done that, Rody. You know what I mean? But but 15 minutes on that.
Yeah, so look, usually it's not required for you to understand philosophical terminology in order for you to have philosophical conversations.
I'm suggesting you to study this terminology, particularly because every time someone tries to explain it to you, it seems like you're not tracking what they're explaining. I wouldn't suggest that to everyone. Obviously, you can have like a decent conversation without like I don't know, without prior to the conversation already knowing all the terminology. But if the terms are super basic and they are easily explainable by one or two sentences, it seems to me fair for the person just to explain that and move on.
Yeah.
But because you don't, but because it's very hard for you to capture the one or two sentences,
Yeah.
and like have some kind of a substitution, then I just suggest you to like learn those stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think personally, I mean, I do think I have a good response to his arguments. The only problem is it never really gets there because it often seems stuck on terminology, unfortunately. And I'm first to admit, as far as philosophical terminology, I'm not that brushed up on. Even the word necessary is much different colloquially than it is philosophically. And even if you get into words like contingent or dependent, I think they're the same thing, but philosophers don't. That kind of thing. You know what I mean? And so when I was talking about his argument about conceivability leads to possibility, and then if he basically saying if he conceives there being no God, then it's possible that there's no God, and if it is such that it's possible there's no God, God does not exist. That was kind of a basic.
So the point. Yeah. So the point there is that if you take conceivability to mean possibility, if you conceive of X, that means that X is possible, then his argument follows.
Right, but
by the way, just 1 second. If this is what he says, right? I'm going off of what you said, not what he said.
Right.
Yeah.
So here's the issue. He says he can conceive of there being no God, right? Now, actually, I don't agree with that, Rody, because of scripture and so forth. It's like someone telling me they can conceive of a square circle, right? Just because someone claims they could conceive of it doesn't mean that they actually do. And so what he was talking about is prima facie, absent of contradictions, that he's claiming to be able to conceive of it. Now, what I was saying was that what you're doing is appealing to ignorance. You're saying that no contradiction has been provided as of yet, therefore you can conceive of it. Now,
I don't think it's fair. Well, let me tell you why it's not fair.
Okay.
First of all, God. So, in order for something to be possibly, right, even possibly a contradiction, sorry, not possibly. In order for something to be necessarily contradiction, you'll need to give some entailments that are coming just from the axioms of logic, right? It's like a theorem of logic. God is not a theorem of logic, right?
Yeah, but it's not just a proposition or a hypothesis, Rody. It is more like a worldview, a proposition of God not conceiving of a God not existing, and so it's a set of beliefs.
Yeah, and a hypothesis can be a worldview. I'm not entirely sure what is the problem in that. An hypothesis is just a set of propositions that entail the data. That's all.
And so what I'm saying is that
supposed to entail the data.
I think that there are contradictions, but it depends upon the person's worldview, right? Every time a specific worldview is examined, just like Matt Slick was saying earlier, there is some sort of something that's not doesn't follow as far as what Matt says. And when I see Darth Dawkins and other presuppositional apologists, I think they successfully demonstrate, at least with their interlocutor, that they're not justified in their view, and that they have some sort of incoherence, contradiction, and what Darth Dawkins claims is to be the impossibility of the contrary. I do think that it does hold up to some degree, and for that purpose, For that is one of many reasons why I didn't accept that there are no contradictions of the view that there is no God. But it's specific to the individual, and so that was my point. Now, one of my more substantive objections, though, Rody, aside from that, right? Not the argument from ignorance, but for the premise. But if you run the inverse, I can conceive of there being a God. The existence of God is therefore possible. Therefore, God exists. Now you have a valid syllogism according to his syllogism, to where his one syllogism is the conclusion is God does not exist, and the conclusion is God exists, and therefore both cannot be true in the same sense at the same time, right? Therefore, both cannot be true. Now, when you look at the premises, right, it would be the same thing. Although the syllogism is valid, both premises cannot be true at the same time. So, in other words, the God exists premises can be true, and the God does not exist premises can be false. But the point being that because both cannot be true, it cannot be established as true. And that's what I was talking about the whole time. You have not justified the premise to be true, because the inverse can also be the case where it's a valid syllogism. And that's what I was trying to argue with Darth. I don't know if it's a valid objection, Rody, but that's what I was attempting to do.
Mm-hmm. So the problem, there are many different types of problems here. Right. So if you're taking there is this type of a relationship between conceivability. Well, first of all, it doesn't really answer Ariano's objections, and that's like a little bit obvious. But the second problem that I see is raised here is that if you are saying God is conceivable, and there is this type of relationship between conceivability and possibility, then it will be inconceivable to imagine God not existing, or to conceive of God not existing. But because it's not the case, then you cannot say that God is necessary under that kind of a condition.
Right, and that's what he said too. That's exactly what he said. Now, my point was, now you've introduced a word necessary. You're trying to imply that I'm claiming that God is necessary. My worldview does not even matter. I could be an agnostic, and I can still bring up these same objections. And so he's trying to now work with this worldview, saying that I have to claim that God is necessary, and he's going that angle.
No. So he did. So first of all, I'm not entirely sure that this is what he said to you. I don't really think that this is what he said to you. I think
it could be I misunderstood him.
I think what he said to you is that he's not really addressing the argument, and that's like a very easy way out of whatever you said. What I am saying to you is like a little bit more to the point that you at least tried to make, which is, and by the way, the conceivability talking about God being necessary, right? God being a necessary entity, or the proposition that God exists is necessarily true. It is true metaphysically under all possible worlds.
Yeah, and the that Converse had was probably more receptive to Darth Arianus. I guess there's a controversy as to whether conceivability necessarily represents possibility, and so Darth Arianus assumes in his argument that it does, but I guess Converse is objecting that it's not does not necessitate that there's possibility from conceivability.
Okay. I'm not entirely sure what's like his argument. Again, I'm not.
Something about Chalmers.
This is why I said to you before that I'm not really capable of having this type of a conversation like before. I'm just saying like what might be the responses, what might be the things, all of those. Oh, so wait a second. Ariana's
what will be interesting to me is that whenever he breaks out of an argument like that, there's a certain buzz, and people start learning it and repeating it and trying it out to other rooms, and sometimes it goes on for 2-3 weeks, and then some of the Muslims are involved, the Sunni Muslims, the Shia Muslims in these conversations. It's amazing how people could just think of something and then just almost invent an argument, and people can be discussing it.
Right. I see no problem in discussing arguments.
No, I don't either. But you know me, Rody. I mean, listen, I know you guys are very much interested in philosophy. I like it, but I'm not as, I don't live and breathe it like some people do. Like I know Darth does. This is his passion. This is what he does, and so I don't mind engaging him. But he does have a tendency to say, "You don't know anything about philosophy," and sometimes you do too, Rody. I don't pretend to be. That's what I'm saying. You know, I try to acknowledge that I'm ignorant of terminology, that sometimes I don't even understand the basics seemingly, and sometimes especially the terminology is where I find that causes confusion because I just use them wrong and imprecisely. But I do get accused of being dishonest because of it too, and I think that's a little unfair.
Should we do a debate instead of talking about John and whatever philosophical ineptitudes he might have?
I'm sorry, you were not that clear, Concrete. I just heard something philosophical ineptitudes you might have. That's all I heard.
Yeah, can we get to a debate? Anybody want to debate a topic?
Yeah, if you want. Let's see, flip-flopping philosophy of the modern age. Do you have any topics? You might have some, right, Concrete?
No, not really. Maybe Brenda. Brenda, you have a topic?
We can talk about why theists don't have good arguments.
Well,
we can talk about the screenshot.
Well, actually, since we have Matt here, Matt, Jeff tried to pretend like the Kalam was a junk argument.
People. You shouldn't talk for other people and give their arguments.
Calm down, Brenda, please.
No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't talk for other people.
Anyway, so Matt, Jeff said that the Kalam was a trash argument, and he said because he couldn't verify, I think what was it, premise 1 or premise 2, Jeff? You didn't believe was the case, and that made the Kalam a junk argument. Go ahead.
Well, you've just totally misrepresented what I said. You said I said it was a trash argument. I never said that.
Oh my God, dude! Are you really nitpicking my word usage?
Well,
you really gonna do that?
Well, yeah. I think if you're gonna,
do you agree that it's a good argument? Yes or no?
No, I do not agree that the Kalam. I am not convinced by the Kalam cosmological argument. I'm unconvinced.
What is your reason for not believing it?
Because I think both the premises and the conclusion are flawed.
All right, tell us what's wrong with premise number 1.
What is it? All things that exist have a cause. Is that it? Is that premise 1?
All things that begin to exist.
All things that begin to exist. Yeah, I don't know that. No, we have no evidence for that. What's your evidence that that's the case?
All right.
I reject it. I'm unconvinced that that's a true premise. So please tell me why I should accept that premise. What is your argument as to why that premise I should accept that all things that begin to exist have a cause?
Matt, are you there? You want to slap this guy around?
I'll only speak if.
Call him up.
You muted.
Said I would speak if we can do it without being interrupted and stuff, but I wanted to tackle. My daughter just left. I had to be with them for a half hour, but I wanted to talk about the Cartesian scenario problem. I think it's inherently self-refuting, the Cartesian scenario in relation to the Christian God.
I think the only person that was, forwarding that argument left. So I don't know. Is there anybody that wants to forward that argument?
Yeah, that's
the Cartesian
true too.
scenario.
Rody was forwarding it on behalf of Arthurianus. So,
well, I don't know if he was just trying to steel man the argument.
hey, did you send Matt down, Concrete?
No, I did not.
He said he had to go. Came back
You're breaking out.
So Concrete. Yeah, so
If I get interrupted.
I reject premise one.
I was saying if I get interrupted or can't speak fairly, then I just don't talk. So I move myself down because I was talking. The guy jumped in. I'm not interested in conversations. We step. So.
Understood. Does anybody want T? Do you want to tackle Jeff and his horrible argument against the Kalam?
I've not argued against Jeff. I've not argued against Kalam.
Jeff, you gotta stop, bro.
I said that I thought Jeff asked a valid question in the. What was the argument for that first premise?
Well, if that's the case, then we need somebody else to battle Jeff. Anybody want to battle Jeff? Anybody?
Why don't you battle me, Concrete? Come on, Concrete. What is the argument that all things that begin to exist have a cause? Please explain to me why I should believe that.
I could do what atheists often do when I ask that. Show me the contradiction, Jeff.
I can steel man the Christian position or the theist position if you want.
But are you going to do a good job at it? Are you going to really beat up on Jeff like the sophist that he is?
I would like one of the Christians in the room to give it a go. Concrete, why are you running away from me?
Because I did this with you yesterday, Jeff, and it's not fun beating up on you day after day. And it's
you didn't do this.
It's Mother's Day.
You didn't do this. You've run away from me like you're running right now. So I've asked you a valid question. Another person in the room has said it was a very valid question. So your first premise I reject because I don't have any evidence to believe that to be the case. Please show me. Please explain to me. Give me your evidence, your citations, whatever you got that tells me that I should believe that all things that begin to exist have a cause. Please, why should I believe that?
I'll let Jeff take it from here.
All right, other Jeff, evil Jeff.
Yeah, let it be noted that Concrete's once again Concrete's running away.
Can you name a single thing that you're aware of that doesn't have a cause?
No, I cannot, except for maybe the universe itself. And we don't know, and I don't know, and there's no way you can know. And it's very possible that the universe has no cause, it just exists. It may be impossible for nothing to exist, so therefore there has to be something. I don't know. I don't really care. It doesn't affect me. Whether I find out the answer to that, it's not going to change my behavior tomorrow. And I just say, yeah, I don't have any reason to believe that, and that's just a useful first premise that to try to sneak God into people's thoughts, plant some kind of religion virus in their brains. And so, yes, I don't believe that.
You don't know that the universe had a cause?
The only reason I would begin to believe it is that my own finite mind, my own human fallible mind, sees everything around me in terms of cause and effect. Like something happens, somebody does something, an agent does something, or an act of nature causes something, and things happen. But that's not informative as to what could happen before time space began, before this all began, what it is. I don't know. So I'm not ever going to make any assumptions as to the fact that all things that exist. Yeah, because I'm just appealing to my own bias from what I see. I mean, that's just my own. I want to refute my own biases and go, well, yeah, my human perception only sees cause and effect, but that doesn't mean shit as to what could actually be happening in the universe. So I'm not that arrogant as to think I got that shit figured out.
So, Jeff, good Jeff asked evil Jeff a simple question, and I think evil Jeff said no. And my recommendation, evil Jeff, would be to go ahead and let good Jeff, enough rope to hang himself at that point. Continue arguing his point.
I don't know why you would believe something when everything you're acquainted with seems to suggest cause, right? Everything you've ever experienced in your entire life has a cause. So why would the universe be any different?
I don't know, but I just admitted. So I agree with you. Everything that I see in my life, it looks like it has a cause. And so that would be bias on my part to assume that the universe acts like time-space continuum. Matter of fact, I think even a lot of Christians agree that time and space are contingent things that they didn't always exist before God created. And so, if that's the fact, then how who knows what that exists? And matter of fact, it seems like to me that Christians would agree that because it turns into infinite regression anyway. Because it just asks the question, so where does God come from, right? I mean, so we could just keep turning it back.
I have a question, Jeff. When you come to like the axioms of logic, identity, non-contradiction, excluded middle, everything that you see applies to those axioms. So wouldn't it be justification for not justification is a bad word, but wouldn't it be reason for you to accept those axioms to be true?
In this universe where I am right now, and with my own personal experience and my own biases, absolutely, that seems to want to make sense to me from what I see. But that's not non-informative as to what really may be the case, that I don't know, that you don't know, that no one knows, and I'm just willing to say I don't know. And so I just reject the premise. Yeah.
Now, similarly, couldn't you apply that to the first premise of the Kalam to say that everything that you see has a cause? You don't know of anything that does not have a cause. And
I agree, except for maybe the universe, I said.
No, but the Kalam
It could be that
the Quran doesn't say everything you see, though. It doesn't qualify it. It just says everything that begins has a cause, and that's what he's rejecting.
Yeah,
I reject that.
I think that John made a category error there in saying that the axioms of the like three laws of logic are in some way similar or comparable to an observation or an induction, right? They're not, right? Because the three laws of logic are tautological, they're analytic in their nature. The claim, everything that begins to exist has a cause, is by definition synthetic in nature and not analytic. So I don't think that you can make the same kind of, same kind of arguments for the trueness of analytic statements that you can for the trueness of synthetic statements.
okay, fair enough.
What? I think if it progressed somewhat, I think John would want to argue that that built into the definition of begin is some kind of causal sequence, or that beginning implies cause. But then you need to present that as an argument to Jeff.
Yeah, and it also tries to sneak in agency.
Can I just ask what's the topic? I'm sorry to butt in.
So Concrete accused me of trashing me the other day because I reject the Kalam cosmological argument. So he totally misrepresented me, and now he's being quiet, thank you, and allowing me to actually explain myself, whereas the other day I didn't. And I've asked for the simple argument is, why should I believe the first premise of the Kalam, that all things that begin to exist have a cause? I reject that. Please give me your argument as to why I should believe that. What is the evidence for that?
Good morning, everyone. Hi. This is Bert.
Yeah,
Hello.
Sorry, Bert. You said something?
Yeah, I was just gonna maybe introduce myself. Can you hear me?
Can you introduce yourself on the back door, sir? Please.
Well, I mean, I was going to introduce myself for the purpose of the Congress.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, hi everyone. Hi Jeffs and all.
You can call them evil Jeff and good Jeff.
I'm driving and I can't see who this is. Can you tell me your name, please?
My name is Bert.
Oh, hey, Bert. I'm
Nice
Jeff.
to meet you.
Thanks. Nice to meet you.
All right.
Nice
Now,
to
wait.
meet you.
Are you evil Jeff or good Jeff?
I have no idea which one.
That's evil, Jeff.
I have no idea. I have no idea which. I have no idea which way they're terming us.
Yeah, Jeff.
I am evil Jeff.
Yes,
I'm evil Jeff.
Evil Jeff.
Okay.
All right. Evil Jeff.
I'm sorry. Can we go back to the topic, or if you want to introduce yourself, please do it under 30 seconds.
Yes. So I'm getting to the topic. Thanks. So I'm a Christian, and I also worked with astrophysicists on a lot of scientific instrumentation and observations. And Jeff, I wanted to say thanks for sharing your point on your counterpoint. But you asked a question, or you made a statement saying you are not so bold as to state whether or not the universe has a cause, or arrogant as to whether or not the universe has a cause. And I wanted to ask you a question. Do you know who is so
hey, give me 1 second, guys. I'm sorry, I'm at a Dunkin' getting ready to order some coffee. Hang on 1 second.
He's running.
You people. Brody, can you defend the PSR?
I don't know what the PSR is.
So I'm here, Bert. Keep going. I'd like to see it because I think I'm following Jeff's argument. So we can repeat it. I know we'll repeat it like 80 more times.
Wouldn't it be more fair if Jeff waited till?
Yeah, I'll wait until Jeff gets his coffee.
Well, hold on. Rab is a big brain, and I'm sure Rab thinks that he can tackle anything you're about to throw his way. But we'll see.
Can I just ask for the good
Go
Jeff?
ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, guys, I'm kind of halfway back here.
All right, I'm here. Bert. Go ahead, Bert.
Okay, yeah. So I wanted to ask Jeff, do you know who is so arrogant as to think that the universe has a cause?
Sure. I mean, if it's an appeal to authority or something, fine. Some great brain, I suppose. But
no. Here's the answer. Every cosmologist, every cosmologist believes that the universe has a cause.
Well, that's good. Okay. That's perfect. Yeah, that's actually I would agree with that, right? That's kind of the point. So there didn't need to be an uncaused cause. There was a cause. That's great.
Wait, so Rab, your point doesn't. Rab, look, the issue is Jeff, not you. So the fact that you agree is not helping us. Jeff is the one saying that he doesn't have a reason to believe in premise 2 of the Kalam cosmology.
Premise 1.
Just
everything premise 1.
Premise 2.
Just 1 second before that. Can you please just Bert, you stated some kind of an empirical claim. Do you have any kind of an evidence for that?
So if you study any sort of cosmology on the origin of the universe, aka the Big Bang, there are many competing ideas. The predominant one is the inflationary field. Where the universe was born out of a seed, so to say, out of the inflationary field, where there was an energy state which allowed for the expansion of the universe within that field. And there are other competing ideas, and ultimately all of those are mathematical constructs to try to explain the observations that we have. But every single cosmologist says, okay, there is a reason why the universe began, because if you look at the universe as it is expanding, then you trace it backwards, and your observations of things very far away represent things that are very young in the universe.
So are you aware right now that there's a lot of
Please let him finish.
Well, he asked me a question. I thought this was a conversation.
Please.
Okay, well, let me finish. I'll land my plane. So everyone tries to trace backwards. Okay, well, what was the universe at the beginning? And at the beginning, no cosmologist will say, "Oh, well, it just was. It didn't have a reason or a cause of where it began." Everyone tries to model how it began and what caused it to begin. So that's the answer.
I can respond to that.
Sure.
Yeah, so there is a little bit of this type of an equivocation. Maybe what you're talking about is the classical depictions, and that might be the case. But when people talk about the universe, they're talking about causal reality, right? And it seems to me like there is this type of a difference. Now, there are models that talk about, as far as I can tell, maybe you can correct me, that there are models that are talking about the infinitude of the past. or some kind of an infinitude type of a model of the universe. The second thing is that I'm not entirely. You said that most physicists believe that the universe caused to exist. And I asked for the empirics. Maybe you don't have it. Maybe you have like an inference to the books that right now are taught in the universities. If you have one book that states this type of a proposition, I'll gladly look at it.
Well,
if you have something like
I mean, the AAS, American Astronomical Society conferences, they have entire tracks discussing cosmology.
Look, the question was to me, and and to Rhodey's point, you are aware that there is a line of thinking of physicists and cosmologists right now that are literally proposing non-contradictory, logical explanations for infinity, infinite regress, and an expansion and a contraction of whatever this is. That it is a possibility that is what's going on. And so for you to say that every one of them, every one of these people believe that there's a cause is just, again, you're either mistaken or you're just not being honestly honest or something.
Hold on. Everyone's a little bit confused here. Hold on, wait. Let's see. Bert is saying that cosmologists believe that Big Bang had a source, a reason to something that we can have a theoretical model on what prompted the Big Bang. That going back in time, we're both on the same page. You can continue back. Cyclic conformal cosmology, for example, is another version of that. There's nothing wrong with saying it continues back. You're both saying the same thing. This current instantiation of the universe has a cause, and it can continue having causes before causes going back forever. Those are both consistent statements with each.
Okay, fair enough. I would agree with you, Rab.
Right. And ultimately, if you can say it goes back infinitely, and just like you can say the universe is infinite, right? And we don't quite understand what that, how that reaches. But Jeff, I wanted to go back to
you got a hot mic thing.
Right. Well, all I'm saying is that our universe, as we have it, came from somewhere, whether that was the collapse of a previous universe, but people are still looking for how come this universe came. But Jeff, I wanted to go back to something you said. I heard you say earlier, and that's that we're looking for causality for the purpose of planting a God virus. I'm saying, and I'm going to parlay that to say you're looking for non-causality as a way to plant the atheist virus. And so really all we're doing here is saying, okay, we already believe one thing and now we're looking for a justification for it. So, just pointing that out there.
No,
this really doesn't prove or disprove God.
I disagree with because I think that a belief of I don't know and give me evidence and then I will believe something is not the same as I believe something and prove me wrong. And so I think that the virus aspect of religion is it turns people into I believe this, prove me wrong, rather than using the evidence to reach a conclusion.
Well,
so
but my faith is not based on how the universe began. I look at the study of the universe as the study of creation and understanding the creativeness of the Creator. My faith is based on the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ.
I got it. Yeah.
What if God is the universe?
Well, hold on. Before we go, rabbit holing off on some tangent here. I think it's important to steelman Bert's argument in that we should allow for all of the premises that we can allow for. So I think what Bert
that's kind of the purveyor.
universe, and you know what a fractal is? What if the human being is a fractal of the universe? And the way to show it is, if God created us in his image and he is the universe, and the human egg is a miniature universe, and that's why each one of us is created, because we start out with the human egg. And the one thing about the birth of a child is the eyeball is the only part of the body or inside the mother's womb that does not grow. The same size, when the eyeball is created, it's the same size as it is today in your body. And you know what a firmament is?
Okay, that was a stupid statement. Wait, Baptist, that's a stupid statement.
No, it makes sense, because if God created us in his image, and we're all fractals of the universe, and there's a firmament over your iris of your eye. So what if the iris of the eye is the earth in each one of us?
That's factually.
Because that makes
eyes do a lot of growing.
Because the Bible says there's a firmament around the earth. So why not?
Come on.
Like I said, each one of us can go to the mirror
what is this?
and look
What
at
is this
our
for?
eyeball and ask me, tell me it doesn't look like Earth.
Baptize, it doesn't. And baptize, what do we get from this? What do we model with it? How do you know what books to follow? How do you know what your morals are? None of that comes out of that. So that's a pointless. It's a use. It does not.
It proves God is real, and he describes it in the Genesis, where he says there's a firmament around the earth, and our eyeball is the earth. There's a firmament.
You're just yelling stuff that makes no sense right now. All right, also the firmament. Come on, dude. Why
sounds like what we used to talk about when we were smoking weed.
Exactly. What
Seriously,
the hell is this about?
I have not had enough beer yet to do this.
It's like, hey, there's some science words, and we're going to stick them in there, and we're going to make it sound like science, but it's not science.
Yeah, baptized.
At the end of the day,
that's just gobbledygook. That's just gobbledygook. Stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah, baptized. That's poetic language that you're trying to take literally. And
It's just a theory. Everything's a theory. It doesn't make it bad, because there's bad.
Yes, it does. It's not that. That is a bad theory.
That's horrible. That's a horrible theory. Yes, it's not. Yeah, it's not even theory. It's a hypothesis. It's horrible.
Yeah, the flat earthers use the word firmament to justify their position too. But this is, I'm saying this as a Bible believing Christian.
And that's why they're idiots. Yes.
So what he was saying was factually incorrect. Between birth and the age of 21, eyes do a lot of growing.
No, it's a fact. The eyeball, when the child's at the full 9 months, the eyeball will never grow again. It's the same size as it was when it was born.
Who is Jeff calling idiots?
The guy who thinks that eyeballs don't grow between the age of birth and 21. He's factually incorrect. That and flat earther, things of that nature.
I don't know flat earther.
That's why when you look at a child as an infant, their eyeballs are always big, because their body will grow to this, but the eyeball will not grow.
Oh my God! Why are we listening to this?
Don't come here with your atheist rhetoric.
Baptized. Do you trust WebMD? In general.
I'm a Christian. I'm not an atheist. What was the question?
No, I'm saying.
Trusted WebMD.
No, I'm just my name is Patrick Layman, so I'm just a layman. That's all.
Okay, well, I'm saying, real quick and dirty search. WebMD says during puberty, they go through another growth spurt. When you're in your 20s, your eyes are fully grown. So your eyes grow as you, any science, any medical, anything will tell you that. And that's just 30 seconds of a search.
Well, you got to admit, a baby's eyes are always real big.
Baptized, oh my God.
I probably got Jack Daniels for Mother's Day now.
Hey, would somebody be able? All right. Does anybody else have something? Yeah, quick reset, please. Please.
That'd be grateful. You ever had a conjunctivitis? That's I got that the other day. That was some scary. Did you ever see a grown man naked?
Wait, no, hold on. I got.
Have you ever been in a Turkish prison cell?
Wait, hold on. Hold on 1 second, please. I got cut out when Bert was explaining how the universe works with Jeff. So has Jeff concluded that the universe does have a cause, or is he still like belligerent?
No, I believe we concluded the universe does not work. I think that's really what we've concluded.
So
oh no, you missed Jeff is like full on.
So concrete. I reject the first premise. I agreed that the universe has a cause. But what I reject is premise